Before we ride into this story, hit like and subscribe. Thank you. In the spring of 1969, I was 22 years old, a brand new adult in every way, except the one that mattered. I was assigned to the 25th Infantry Division in Vietnam, based out of Cu Chi, northwest of Saigon, tunnel country. That whole patch of earth was a pressure point on the map because it sat between Saigon and a web of Viet Cong base areas. If they wanted to move men, ammo, or messages toward the city, the routes ran through our backyard. And if they wanted to vanish, they didn't need a forest or a mountain. They had the ground itself. From above, Cu Chi looked like scrub and paddies and thin jungle. From the boots down, it was a trapdoor. The earth was honeycombed with tunnels, entrances hidden under cooking fires, under termite mounds, inside bomb craters that looked old enough to be safe. You could walk a field 100 times and still be standing on a doorway you'd never see. Our job was simple on paper: keep pressure on them, make it harder to breathe, harder to move, harder to sleep. What that meant for us was going back to the same places again and again, running sweeps through areas we knew weren't clear, because nothing was ever clear. The jungle didn't get cleaned, it just got angry. By that point in the war, most of our operations were mechanized. We rode tracks, M113S, out along laterite roads and hard trails. The engines rattled your teeth and announced you to the world. The idea was speed, armor, and firepower up to a point, and then you dismounted and became soft again. Steel could take you near the problem, but you still had to solve it with feet. That's how most missions started, including the one that ended my tour. That morning we rolled out before daylight, the sky still the color of dirty dishwater. The laterite road north of Cu Chi was red clay packed hard, dusty when it was dry and slick as grease when it wasn't. Most of us rode on top of the vehicles because being inside wasn't safe if a track hit a mine. You didn't want to be sealed in a metal box when the floor turned into shrapnel. So we sat up there with rifles across our knees hooked on the armor, eyes working the road edges and tree lines. The danger wasn't usually a man you could see. It was a wire, a pressure plate, a piece of bamboo cut too cleanly, a patch of dirt that looked off in a way you couldn't explain until it was too late. Someone always tried to joke. Someone always failed. We moved off the road after a while, grinding into brush and light jungle. Any hope of surprise was gone the moment the first engine started. The sound carried for miles. The Viet Cong knew exactly where we were, and that was fine. Usually they didn't want to tangle with tracks head on. They'd sting you and vanish. They'd let the ground do the killing. The area we were working was scrub and thin trees with tall grass and old bomb craters, pockmarks in the earth, some filled with green water, some dry and cracked, some deep enough to swallow a man if he stepped wrong. It was tunnel country, and our division had been dealing with tunnels there for years. My platoon had found 2 entrances in that same area the week before and destroyed them, blowing the mouth shut, collapsing what we could. But destroying an entrance doesn't erase a tunnel, it just makes it angry somewhere else. Everyone knew the real threat wasn't the gunfire, it was the booby traps. In that kind of country, you were more likely to be hit by a tripwire than by an enemy rifle. We walked like we were reading Braille with our boots, slow and careful, eyes flicking down, up, down again. The point man moved like he was testing ice on a frozen lake, and the rest of us copied his rhythm. Mid-morning, we took small arms fire from the tree line, sharp cracks, then the whip of rounds through leaves. It wasn't an ambush with teeth, it was harassment, a reminder. Somebody on our side yelled and fired back. The track swung their guns, thumped a few bursts into the brush. The firing stopped as quickly as it started. I remember thinking, that's it? One of our guys got hit in the hand. Nothing life-ending, but enough to make him stare at his own blood like he didn't recognize it. We pushed security, checked the area, tried to find where the shots came from. There was nothing to find, just empty jungle and that old feeling that you were being watched by a room you couldn't see into. Then we continued the sweep. That was typical. You didn't stop the operation because the enemy wanted you to stop. You didn't stop because you were tired. You didn't stop because the jungle had teeth. You kept moving because the mission kept moving. Later, one of the guys tripped a punji trap. It happened fast. 1 second he was stepping over a root. The next he was down with a sound I still don't like hearing in my head. Punji stakes were bamboo sharpened like pencils and smeared with whatever filth would make infection a second enemy. This one caught him low in the leg, deep. He went pale and quiet, which scared me more than yelling would have. Doc, our medic, was on him in seconds, working with that calm, hands-busy focus that medics had. He cut fabric, packed, wrapped, talked to the wounded guy in a voice like a steady rope. We called for a medevac, marked the smoke, cleared what little space we could find. When the helicopter came in, the rotor wash flattened the grass and blasted dust into our eyes. The wounded man disappeared into the bird like a package, and then the sound pulled away into the sky. We reorganized and kept moving. We were down 1 man, but the mission didn't change. That was something you learned quickly with the 25th. The operation always continued. Around noon, the heat got heavy, like the air had weight. We moved into another stretch of scrub and trees where the ground was uneven from old bomb strikes and shelling. That kind of terrain is exhausting because your body never finds a rhythm. them. Every step is a question. Every crater edge can twist an ankle. Every tuft of grass can hide a stake. You're sweating and you can't wipe your face because your hands are full of weapon and fear. I was walking second in the line, just behind the point man, close enough to see the back of his helmet, the way his shoulders tensed when he saw something that made him slow down, close enough that I could smell him, sweat, insect repellent, cigarettes soaked into fabric, and in that moment, my life changed forever. I stepped on a mine and it detonated immediately. There wasn't a cinematic pause, no warning, no time to think. Just a crack so violent it felt like the world had punched me in the spine. A cloud of dust swallowed everything. The sound didn't fade. It slammed into a deep ringing that replaced all other noise, like my ears had become hollow bells. I remember being thrown backward, then realizing I wasn't sure if I'd been thrown or if my own legs had quit on me. For a few seconds, I couldn't understand what I was looking at. My brain was trying to fit the scene into something normal, like it always does. The sky was too bright, the grass was too close, my rifle was still in my hands. That seemed important. I still have my rifle, as if holding it could keep the rest of me together. Then the warmth hit. Not the warm air, a warmth spreading inside my boot and pant leg. The kind of warmth that doesn't belong. I tried to move and the world tilted. My stomach rose like it wanted to leave. I remember thinking, very calmly, this is it. This is how it happens. Not in a firefight, not heroic, just one wrong step on the wrong inch of earth. Hands grabbed me. Voices came in and out like a radio losing signal. I couldn't hear words, just urgency. The point man was yelling for everyone to freeze. No one moved without permission. When one mine is there, others usually aren't far. Doc was there again. I saw his face above me, blurred at the edges, sweat cutting trails down his cheeks. He didn't look scared. He looked angry. Angry at the mine. Angry at time. A tourniquet went on fast. I felt pressure. Hard, crushing pressure. Above the wound. Someone held my shoulders down because I was trying to sit up, trying to see, trying to argue with reality. Time did that strange thing where it stretches. Seconds become whole minutes. You start counting your own breaths because it feels like if you stop counting, you might stop breathing. I wondered if I was dying. I didn't want to ask because I didn't want to hear the answer. They called a track forward, not just to move me, but for firepower. Even when the shooting stops, you assume it can start again at any moment. The track's engine roared closer, and the vibration came through the ground into my ribs. They lifted me carefully, like the ground might reach up and grab the next man. We moved to a small clearing, barely a clearing, just a patch where the trees thinned enough for a helicopter to gamble. Smoke popped. Someone waved. The air filled with that distant thump-thump that grows into a storm. The Medevac came in low and fast. Rotor wash flattened everything, turned dust into a brown fog. Men crouched, helmets down, hands over faces. I was loaded quickly. The crew chief's eyes met mine for half a second. Professional, neutral, like this was just another delivery in a long day of deliveries. Then the helicopter lifted. As we climbed out, the ground dropped away and the noise became a steady roar. I remember seeing the tracks below like dull green insects, small and stubborn, moving back into the scrub. I remember thinking I should be with them. I remember feeling guilty for leaving. I didn't know it then, but that was my last day in the Vietnam War. Looking back now, my time with the 25th wasn't defined by one mission or one moment. It was defined by the people I served with and the kind of war we were fighting, where the danger was constant but rarely obvious. A war where the enemy didn't always need to be brave. The earth did the work for them. There are men I still remember clearly. Their faces, their voices, the way they laughed when nothing was funny because laughing was better than thinking. I remember small moments that never fade. Sharing a canteen, a cigarette passed hand to hand, a letter read under red light, someone humming a tune without realizing it. Some of those men made it home, some didn't. And that stays with you whether you talk about it or not. I never saw Doc again. I wish I could thank him for what he did that day. I don't remember his last name. In that world, you called him Doc, and that was enough. Sometimes I try to picture him now and I can't get his face exactly right, only the feeling of him, his hands, his speed, that steady voice. I hope he made it home. Vietnam changed most of us who were there. You became more careful, more aware, more realistic about how things really worked. You learned how fast everything could change and how little control you truly had. One minute you're walking second in line, thinking about lunch and heat and how your socks never dry. The next minute you're looking at the sky from a stretcher, trying to keep yourself from floating away. When we came home, most guys didn't talk about it much. The people who understood were the ones who had been there too. Everyone else wanted tidy stories, clear heroes, clear villains, clean endings, but that wasn't how it felt on the ground. Out there, the jungle didn't care about your reasons. The war didn't care about your plans. Even now, years later, Vietnam never completely goes away. It's still there in the memories, in the names you can't forget, in the ones you can't remember, and in the way you scan a room without meaning to. It's there when you hear a helicopter and your chest tightens before your mind catches up. It's there in the quiet moments when you realize you're grateful for ordinary days because you learned what it costs when ordinary disappears. Sometimes I think about that red laterite road, the way the dust hung in the air, the way the tracks rattled forward like they owned the world. And I think about that single step, not because it was dramatic, because it was the most Vietnam thing about Vietnam. The danger was always there, it just didn't always show itself until it was already done.